What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheetaber talking through the first big slate of the season. Last night's two-gamer did not treat me well, but I said I always like the two gamers or I like the million gamers. So we've got the million gamer now to play. And of course, it wouldn't be the NBA. We have major question marks out there still. We've got players who are sick and potentially injured a little bit. And they're also going to be popular, and they also look like great plays. So very, very tricky stuff that we're trying to figure out. I would really encourage everybody who hasn't, to check out the new SaberSim stuff. We're doing some videos on it. I know Brandon did one. I know Goldie's going to do one. I'm going to do one. I'm sure at some point Sheets just by nature will end up doing one. But I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to real quick before we get into the slate. We have the promo code NBA25 for 25% off your first month. Also the promo code NBA yearly for 10% off of all year-long subscriptions. And those are case sensitive for what it's worth. But let's get after it. Sheets, what do you think about this slate? What are your sort of overall first look impressions?
Couple of things. First of all, a couple of announcements. So at 11 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be doing the live sweat where I go through the lobbies. I'm going to try to analyze, who's doing well and what it takes to do well. And I'm also going to try to learn how these live contest sims work on SaberSim so I could actually mathematically sort of gauge who's doing well. I want to turn this into kind of a nice live sweat. Now, again, the odds that I'm deep in something is very slim. But if that happens, that's also really good. I mean, the other thing is in these big slates and pretty much all the NBA. I mean, listen, I haven't smoked in like years. Like that's just not what you do when you're my age. I don't think anymore. But like the NBA can like kind of. You could probably benefit from that, just something to relax yourself during like these freaking evenings when all the news is coming in, and oh my God, this guy's out too, whatever it is. It's like a billion people playing, a lot of question marks, don't let it bother you too much, just kind of do the best you can. There's like a billion players. Now, why tell me the injuries that you were referring to?
Well, Giannis is going to play. He's probable, so I'm not that worried about that one. But at the same time, we've seen that happen and bite us a little bit. We actually saw it just last week in football. We had 3 players who were questionable with illnesses who all didn't play, who played like 1 or 2 snaps, like Deebo Samuel, for example. So Zion Williamson is by far the biggest one, I think. He looks like a terrific play. He looks too cheap, good matchup, and it should sort of be his show, but he is officially questionable, and he also got sick on top of being questionable. So there's things to worry about. Steven Adams being questionable is another one that could, if you're interested in Şengün, which I am, that could actually just affect, because they're going to play some Steven Adams minutes. And if Şengün ends up playing like 38 instead of 32 minutes, that's a huge boost for him, obviously. So those are the main ones. Most of the other ones, I feel like we don't really have to, like there's the probables of like, who else was popped up? Tim Hardaway Jr. He's going to play, I think, for Detroit. And then I guess the bigger one is we're guessing at starting lineups right now. Not everybody. It's not written in stone that you have to play the starting lineup that you're projected to have. So first game of the year, and we just got our first lineups in. By the way, the Sixers are starting Maxey, Gordon, Oubre, KJ Martin, Drummond. I think that's what we had, and. The Magic are starting Suggs, Caldwell-Pope, Wagner, Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. So nothing special from the first 2 lineups we got in. But keep an eye out for them because you're going to see some drastic projections change. I was going to go visit some family tonight, but I think I'm going to be there for the 11 o'clock thing because I am not going anywhere during this kind of a slate. I'm going to be, adjusting on every window I can. At every 20 minutes, I'll be updating my builds because I do think we're going to see some starting lineups that are a little different than what we have projected. That's just my take.
Yeah. I had a couple of questions about guys. So Zion is the main guy you're saying who is an issue.
Yeah. And as big at like, not only is he an issue, like it makes you want to stack that game if he's out because everybody else then becomes probably a little too cheap. Maybe not quite as much as I'm saying because you do have Ingram, who sort of hasn't quite been himself for a couple of years, or I don't know. He can still put up a big game, but DeJounte Murray's there now, so it's a little more crowded with McCollum. It's not just an obvious swap to somebody, but you'll get somebody funny in the starting lineup who's going to be cheap. I don't know who it would be. Maybe they would start Tice. Right now, they're planning on playing Herb Jones at center is what they've announced, but we haven't seen the lineup. Herb Jones, who's like been their shooting guard and small forward. Now he's playing center for them, and he's like 6'7". So that's the big one.
Let me ask you about a couple of values that are showing up for me right now. Who I'm in my listen, I'm going to rebuild everything, obviously, but guys, I'm getting like a lot of, and I imagine they're going to be really popular. My ownership projections have them only like 20-25% on. I'm getting like 4 billion of them, and one of them is Brandon Clark.
Yep.
At 3,700, and the other one at the same position actually is Nick Richards. I'm getting like just like a ton of both of those guys in the cheap range. What do you think of those two guys before we even get moving?
Yeah, those are obviously basically kind of the keys to the slate, I think. I love the plays, but if you're going to try and find a way that it doesn't make sense, here's the argument against it. I'm still probably going to be overweight both these guys, but I think it's just my job to say what I'm worried about. Zach Edey, we don't know exactly look, we don't know how many minutes they're going to let him roll out there for the Grizzlies. I think we still like on DraftKings, like Clark, it's just really hard not to play him. He's a little more expensive, but it doesn't really matter. He's still a good play on FanDuel. So I do think Clark makes a lot of sense, but if Edey and Aldama are effective, his minutes could get cut out of there pretty easily, actually. They don't necessarily need size in this matchup against Utah, and he's not exactly a true center anyway. So I could see a funny world where he just doesn't get there. Now, he's a good fantasy point per minute player, so even in not too many minutes, I still think he's a good value play. That would be my take. And he's a part of the system. He's already part of what they've already gone through. He went through this last year, and he was always very good when what's his name was out with no when they didn't have Steven Adams. Nick Richards, assuming that he starts, and I'm going to keep saying this to about everybody, yeah, it's really hard not to play a 4K center, and I think you're going to see a lot of builds with both he and Clark. Is there a way he doesn't get there? Sure. He gets 2 quick fouls against Şengün. Maybe he gets 5 fouls in like a total of 15 minutes. Or 10 minutes. That's totally possible against a guy like Şengün, who's just much bigger than he is. But they don't exactly have it's going to be other than that Taj Gibson and basically I don't even know who else they would consider to put out there. Oh, Grant Williams has a good game off the bench. Maybe that could hurt him. But they're just cheap enough to where I think we kind of have to eat it mostly.
I have another guy to ask you about, but before I get to him, I'm just going to tell you who I'm getting to right now. I'm getting these mid-range guys. I'm getting like 50% Larry Markkinen.
Yeah.
Don't know where I'm getting like, and then I'm getting like 40% of 3 other mid-range guys. One, Colin Sexton, and then Emmanuel Quickly, and then Kelly Oubre. Mm-hmm. Do you have any particular opinion, positive or negative, of those 3? And then I have a legitimately guy I have to ask you about.
I have all those guys in a pretty good amount. I'm actually the one guy who I went to get less of is Oubre, just because he's got a wide range of outcomes. It's not like he's super cheap. He doesn't need to go nuts in this matchup. So I don't think I need to play. I guess Oubre is the one I feel the least need to play. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. But I do think that he's, I get why he's there, but he's the only one I'm really concerned with. I don't get I do get the Markkinen thing. I think I play Markkinen a little bit less than the field does in general, but his price is kind of stares at you at 7,500. The problem I have with both Markkinen and Sexton tonight, who are both projecting well, is that the Jazz don't want to win. This is a tank season for them. Now, opening night at home, sure, they're going to go out. The guys who are playing are going to play, but are they going to just cap him at like 30-something minutes until they trade Markkinen and they try to tank for the kid? I don't know. So I'm a little concerned about both Sexton and Markkinen. Having said that, I'm basically with the field on those guys. So I'm not like concerned enough. I just didn't want to get the 65-75% type of deal.
So why do you say they're tanking this year?
Oh, they're 100% tanking. They've announced they've gone out of their way. This is one of the best drafts we've had in years, and there is no benefit to them doing anything. They also have no chance. They could play their best basketball. There's a 0% chance that team's going to be in the top 10 in the West. They just don't. The West is just overloaded. I mean, the Lakers, who I was talking about yesterday, I don't think might miss the playoffs. They beat Minnesota last night. Like the West is just so loaded up and down.
Yeah, it's flying in the face of my Utah resurgence theory.
It's going to resurge for sure. It's just going to take 2 more years.
No, I mean like the whole state, like the whole thing with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, thriving. Yeah. We have the Utah hockey team,
right,
debuting. You had the UFC going there. You had a great Black Desert Championship at PGA, and the Utah Jazz. They're going to be the ones to eat it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one guy I have to ask you about. And listen, usually I have like 7 guys that I have to ask you who they are. I only have one.
This is the second, though.
What?
Oh, who they are. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, one guy who is Gershon Yabusele.
Yabusele from the Olympics. So he actually took Rudy Gobert's spot in the Olympics for France and dominated throughout the whole Olympic tournament. Okay. And Boston had drafted him years ago, but then he'd gone over and to play over in Europe. But he was terrific. He had a big poster dunk on LeBron. He actually outplayed LeBron in the championship game. So he's probably going to just remain Drummond's backup, but that could easily, he doesn't have to. Like, he's got the ability to play alongside Drummond. He's not a true natural 5, but that's how they're going to use him tonight in Philly, is the thinking. I think he gets run no matter what, but I will say that I'm a little concerned because this is not like a big contract they signed him in the offseason. They did sign him, but it's not like a huge thing. They didn't figure he would factor into most things, I don't think, like this. And as of right now, he's going to. I think that, like, between he and KJ Martin, having one of those guys a decent amount makes sense to me, but it could easily just there's one. I'm sorry, yeah, KJ Martin. I could easily see it potentially dudding. It just has that feel to me, but I think there's enough upside to where I don't want to miss it. So I'm a little stuck on that one.
Okay.
And I like Yabusele. I watched a lot of the Olympics this year, and he was really impressive. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, there's actually a bunch of other questions in chat. I'm just going to get to really quickly. Oh, there's thoughts on Yabusele there. I just answered that one. Harden versus Trey, which sounds like a funny question when you hear it out loud, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense because and Trey's got a great matchup. Harden has a great matchup, and there's really nobody else there. So the cash game and the logical answer is Harden. If you want to take a tournament shot on Trey, this is probably as good a day as any to do it. There's nobody who can guard him on the other side. I like running a Trey Cam Thomas build and hope the game stays close. We already know my thoughts on Cam Thomas as potentially being the scoring leader this season. I know it's a bold take, but I'll stand by it. He's going to average 20 more than 25. I think he could get to 30. So I personally like Harden's the more logical play. Trey Young is you get him at low ownership, super sneaky. It's finally his team again. No DeJounte Murray. Nobody in there to muck it up. It's really, and by the way, for real basketball, that means nothing. Like, it is not a good thing. But for DFS, I think it's going to be the Trey show this season, and they priced him like it. So, but again, if I had the extra money, I would take Trey just straight up. Given the situation tonight, I have more Harden than I do Trey.
Okay.
We're getting a question about thoughts on a Giddey GPP play. I think he makes more sense on FanDuel as a play than he does on DraftKings, but I do think I think his price is a little bit over the top on DraftKings in a tighter pricing pool than playing him over Levine feels a little funky, but I don't mind getting to a little bit of it. I just wouldn't want more than like 5 or 6%. On FanDuel, I think you can make him actually like a real play, as far as I can tell. And
are you
because the builds, just one thing I want to touch on, because the way the builds are going to work with those double set, because so many people are going to play Clark and Richards, and that just eats up both center and utility spots. I just think it's healthy to make sure you're getting at least overweight some other centers. I think center and utility, as we talk about every year, kind of have to do the same thing again today. So go ahead, Sheets.
No, that's fine. So what type of – we don't have Jokic, I don't believe, on the schedule tonight, and Embiid is obviously out. What about somebody like Şengün to fit that pivot type idea.
And especially if Steven Adams somehow is out, because he'll get more minutes that way.
Steven Adams is still in the league, huh?
Steven Adams is great. He just got hurt last year.
Oh, I literally didn't know.
Best offensive rebounder of the generation. I've always had a soft spot for him because he was like Russ's protector in OKC. I like the guy. He's also probably the strongest man in the NBA. he's such a
he is very, very strong.
It's crazy. And he sounds like the friendliest guy because everybody knows the nicest people in the world are from New Zealand, and he has that thick accent.
So I remember him like breaking up a couple of fights or something like that.
Yeah, he just picked up guys and carried them the other way. It was like nothing, it was nothing to him. I mean, right now my highest owned players are Clark, Richards, Quickly. So I'm not getting especially different with my highest owned. I'm a lot higher than the field on Aldama though, and I would like to have. I don't want to make a rule quite to where I say no Clark and Aldama together. I don't feel that strongly about it, but I would if I'm in my hand builds. I'm going to play one of them rather than both of them together. I love Steph Curry tonight, and I don't hear many people talking about him. I don't usually love him for DFS, but I like his price. I like the situation. I like the matchup. I think no one's talked about the Portland guys on the other side of that game. Also, it does our favorite thing. Sheets like I really think it's the right way. Zion is out. Okay, there goes the whole slate. So we're gonna have to rerun everything.
See, we're chilled. I'm not worried. It's all good. See,
I know.
It doesn't matter that I just reran all my projections in the last like 10 minutes.
Oh God,
it's all good. No, don't worry about it. It's just part of life, man. That's all it is. It's not a big deal.
Oh, look at you. You handle it really well.
See?
Well, and you know what? Maybe now with my new strategy of implementing all this stuff, maybe I can handle it a little bit better than I have in the past because I don't need to hand build it.
Maybe, and then we could avoid the Sheets Antonio Brown thing. It's going to happen at some point, but maybe we can hold it off for like a little while. We'll see.
Yeah, it sounds good. So we're going to wait for things to rerun because I don't really think there's much like, you know what this is going to do though? Okay, let me just think about what's going to be the logical step here for people.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to project so great from? I think it's going to make McCollum look like a good play. I don't think it's going to make anybody except for maybe Herb Jones look like a great play.
What time does that game start?
It's at 8 Eastern, but you're going to end up with a lot of stuff actually, it's not true. You won't necessarily end up with a lot of stuff in the early games. You'll have a lot of Toronto and Cleveland, but maybe some Indiana, Detroit. Those are games I just like to stack and get away from. I just wanted to get like 10% in my $5 of the Detroit Indy stack. I don't actually have like guys as priorities from there, with the exception of I'm going to make a bold claim that it's going to be a big year for Jaden Ivey, at least numbers wise. So I do want to get well above the field on that. This is going to be interesting though, because I am curious how the projections are going to treat it, because they have a third guy now without Zion with the DeJounte Murray. And I'm very curious how this is going to work together.
Well, so who do we think is it doesn't matter, but who do we think is starting? Like you said, Herb Jones?
Herb Jones, we think is like he'll start anyway. I don't know.
Do you think he might start at the 5 now?
Now it would be weirder to start him at the 5. So maybe they just start Tice at the 5 and then he looks like another value play. I honestly don't know who they would even want to from their. It could be Jordan Hawkins and they go like a 3.5 guard lineup basically. Yeah, it's weird. And it is true.
What team does Moses Brown play for now?
I don't even know if he's. I mean, he must be somewhere, but I don't know.
No, he's somewhere. I forget where. Is he still? Is he in Portland? Maybe or no?
He never shows up unless there's like 5 guys out. So I don't know.
Yeah. I was just wondering if maybe by some accident he's on New Orleans somehow.
No, that would have been funny though, because I would have taken that shot in a heartbeat. You know, I love that guy to put up numbers, but
yeah.
The other one that was weird, and he finally got a projection of like 5 fantasy points today. I really thought, like when I saw the pricing, there was a mistake with Moody. I think Moody's going to have a good year. The only problem is in Golden State, they're literally 10 deep, and they have like Steph Curry and like basically 9 really good role players.
Okay.
So I don't know that I can get to the Moody, but I actually thought I was sort of under the impression that he would start and they'd bring Melton off or what did I have? Oh, I thought they would go small. Yeah. I guess they'll play Trace Jackson Davis. Do game stacks work in the NBA the way they do in NFL and MLB? 5-mans? No, I don't think you ever think about it like a 5-man. I think you should look at it somewhat in terms of how much salary you're allocating to the game stack. But yeah, they certainly work. And also you have an added bonus here that is a bonus in MLB and it's a bonus in NFL, but it's nowhere near the bonus as it is in NBA. Because look, 7% of games go into overtime. Okay, that's enough of a number to where you should actually factor that into your game stacking. But I usually try to, there's no rule for it to me. If you're getting game stacks and you get like a 3-2 or a 2-2 or 2-1 or just a superstar versus superstar, it's all somewhat of a stack. I just don't think that you ever think there's like a rule where it's like 5 or 6 from a game, like unless maybe it's a 2-game slate.
Right.
And all my idiotic stuff, I put Tatum as a core play, and all my big buy-ins. I was like, okay, I'm just going to fade Tatum in one lineup. Somehow I ended up fading him in all like 3 of my big lineups, and I don't know how. That was really frustrating because I had Davis in all of them, or in 2 of them anyway.
Well, the other thing though, I mean, Payne did well, didn't he?
Payne I had over the field, but I didn't get enough of it. Who I did have in one of the 333s though was Jericho Sims at like 3%, and he put up 20 at minimum cost.
Yeah, I actually did okay. I mean, I didn't like make a lot, but in my single entry stuff, I got in the money, and I won a little bit in MME. But again, like I said, I mean, at NBA you got to. It's not like baseball. You can get away with a 0. It's like all your guys kind of have to get there, I think.
Right. Yep, I agree with you.
What do you think of this, the Zach Edey?
I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. And I think that he was slept on too much. But I also don't think – it's interesting because it sort of is the opposite of what the Memphis team wants to do. They want to get out and run and have a big guy getting rebounds for them, setting screens. Edey can do, he can set screens and everything, but he's actually an offensive weapon. I mean, this guy is the best player in college basketball for the last two years. He can do things down there, and I think he's going to be a part of their plan. DeJounte Murray's personal remains a game time decision. I mean, come on, guys. Get the first game of the season. You just got traded over there. Play the freaking game or don't.
Or not, right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, if he's out, then the whole slate does change because that's also the Pelicans. So then you have the Ingram and McCollum chalk everywhere.
Ooh, there's the Zion. He's
mother effer. Frustrating.
Oh, here's some other guys that want to ask you. Wait, these guys it's actually a pretty decent. So I just ran a good set of projections, but without the Zion news. So this is actually, I'm going to update. I'm going to put this one up, and then all we have to do really is change the New Orleans projections, and then we should be good.
Right.
So, and I presume that something. Boy, I guess they're not going to have starters out for a little while, right?
No. They announced Taurean Prince would start for Milwaukee, which we knew anyway. I mean, we all kind of figured that. I mean, come on, it's just so dumb. I get the real, like, genuine one. I think that the Zion thing was a real thing. Okay, they let us know a little bit early enough, but like DeJounte Murray for personal. I mean, I hope he's having a baby, or I don't hope someone died. But what other reason is there that you have a personal thing that comes up as a game time decision an hour and a half before your first game with a new team when you're making like $50 million a year?
Well, what makes it a game time decision? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if you have to take the day off, whatever. But I'll tell you, man. Who's going to go down as one of like the weirdest, like greatest athletes ever is Kawhi Leonard. Like that guy, he's like so bizarre. He's just so bizarre.
But you know what's weird about him? The first like 7 years of his career was considered the perfect model of what you want as a player. Never complain, never does anything, works harder than everybody else does. The hardworking superstar who doesn't talk anything, doesn't talk trash, doesn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, but he had a real thing, like his knee and yeah. At first I defended him, and now I just don't know what to do with him. Like,
right.
I really don't. I feel bad for the Clippers a little bit, but there was some trade rumors on the thing I was listening to today. They were talking about a chance that he might go. They're like, why wouldn't San Antonio has 1 million future picks, 1 million future everything. Why not trade him and get him back in San Antonio to play with Wemby and Chris Paul at the end of his career? But still, and then you could keep Vassell and you can keep Sohan. You're already a contender. I mean, when he plays, he's one of the best 10 players in the NBA. Ugh. All right. So we're going to get out of here in 5 minutes, but I'm just going to see if everything's updated. I'm rerunning some things and trying to get Zion out of my stuff. But I'm going to rerun the projections and everything after I get out of here and make sure I have enough time. All right. Any other QQs, guys, you want to feel free to drop them in. I really don't know how to answer much without DeJounte Murray. I guess what that does is Pelicans beat writer says DeJounte will play. Okay, I appreciate that, Dante. That's helpful. I'm not going to treat it as gospel because I've seen this stuff happen before. But I'm just curious, Dante, if you don't mind, let us know when he posted that. Did he post it just now?
And meanwhile, I'm like literally the worst. Okay, so I knew that like David Pinglor, like working like media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't realize he's like an actual announcer.
Yeah.
Like I saw him like interviewing some like one of the basketball players. I'm like, wait, what the hell?
No, he worked with it. So my buddy, who I knew from Santa Barbara, went and worked at the same station he did down at KTLA in LA. And then it's the same thing. Kenny hates TV stuff, but he watches the morning news every morning with Pingalore on there, like or whatever. It's so funny. Like, what do we think of KJ Martin? I think he's a good value play. I think there's again wide range of outcomes guy, but I am on the range of being overweight right now, KJ Martin, and I honestly am not exactly sure why he's not projecting a little bit better. So I like the KJ Martin. I can get behind it. 8 minutes ago. Thanks, Dante. I appreciate that. That's helpful. I'm going to treat it more as if he's going to play than I would, but I'm not sure of it. And I guess this goes to one other point, especially for you guys late swapping and using especially the TrueDFS /SaberSim to late swap. I really think that there is a value in NBA, especially more than any other sport, although all of them is valuable. I really think that you should boost everybody in the later games, like up a point or something. Do whatever you can to make sure to play later games, especially on these kind of slates where there's questionable things going on.
How do you do that, though? I
think you could literally just manually add a point to everybody. You could.
I thought of that.
Yeah.
And one thing, I'd like someone to confirm whether you can or can't do this on SaberSim. But in some of the sports, like in football, if you could change the total of a whole team.
Yeah.
And then it will just disperse everything to the players. I know some sports that's supported.
I think it does for basketball and baseball as well. I actually think it does.
One of them, I know it. I thought it was, but it wasn't. But this is a year ago.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I remember changing. I thought it was a baseball game. And basketball makes the most sense, but like I thought it was a baseball game that I changed. Like I tried to double the score just to see what it did, and I'm pretty sure that all the numbers went through the roof for the hitters. But we can check it out. I'll mess around with that another time soon. Guys, usually we'll go through things and go through builds. It's a huge slate, a lot going on, still waiting on news. And I'm just going to refresh here just to see one last time before if we have. Why is it telling me there's still the stuff with Zion?
Yeah, me too.
He's not even in my lineups anymore. I don't know why it keeps giving me the little red signal. Maybe it's just like warning me that they're in my actual lineups. I don't know.
Yes.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Good to know. All right. So I'm going to change this and we're going to do this. All right. Let me see if anything has popped off so we can help people out a little bit. Okay.
Who is on Portland now, by the way?
On Portland, it's Simons, Scoot Henderson. I like Scoot Henderson as a tournament play.
Okay.
I like Simons as a tournament play. I like Ayton as a tournament play. I really think that game is getting overlooked. And if you want to backload a game with some upside, you got pieces with Curry and then basically everybody who plays for the Blazers.
Well, you know what? I mean, you're going to have a lot of action. It's a pretty decent late sweat start at 11 p.m. because you're getting at the last quarter of that Memphis-Utah game that's going to have a lot of ownership, I think.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. And it'll just have ended, or maybe there'll be an overtime in Charlotte, in Houston, or New Orleans. Does anybody know what the stuff is going on with DeJounte Murray? I have no idea what the other stuff is, so I must have missed that one.
Is he like hanging out with Zion or something?
I don't know what it is. But you know what's weird is that none of the value like jumped through the roof so far. So maybe it's just not updated yet, but like I'm not seeing anything that really looks incredible from New Orleans.
Well, there's something you're going to have something pop. It's, you know what I mean? Like he just has too much usage to not have it go somewhere.
So they're projecting Tice to be in as the starter, but I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I want to play him, you know?
Tice?
Yeah. I mean, I think is he a center only?
Well, that's why he makes him just an interesting pivot off of the other two guys who are still going to project better.
I mean, I like Clark, you know what I mean? Like that I like. Richards, I could make a case to not play. Just because I mean we've seen this before with him. Not to mention the fact that they can get dusted. I mean,
that's true.
So LaMelo Ball is not LaMelo Ball. Lonzo Ball is back this year, right?
Yes, he's back.
Yes and no.
No, I just don't. I don't know what's up with him. Like they're gonna play him like 3 minutes or something. Like I don't know. The minutes don't look like there's any way to play him or anything. But I think they just have to let him come back. I mean, pretty serious leg stuff. So I guess that's why they'll probably just use him like a little bit, like 10 to 12 minutes a game or something to start. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe get 16. Sad about that guy's career. Anyway, I'm probably going to get out of your sheets. Are you good or?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Good luck to everybody. Thanks for so many people checking in. Please give us a like on the way out of here. I'll be in Discord if anybody has any questions or thoughts, and let's get after it.